Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beauty Topics podcast. I'm your host, Chantel, and I'm super excited today because I have an incredible guest on my couch with me. It's another one of those pinch me moments. I'm so excited. I have the Dr. Danielle Griffin here with me today, and she is a phenomenal woman. She is an entrepreneur, an author, a mom, a wife, as I call a mompreneur. A business owner, just all these things encompass into one. And she is officially a TED Talk speaker as well. Hello. I'll just give you a little round of applause myself because there is no studio audience. So, Dr. Danielle Griffin, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to chat with you today. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Literally my pleasure.
Oh, gosh. This journey has been long but fast at the same time. You know, going back to just when I used to work at the university, kind of workplace trauma, you know, building up, struggling, getting through life, you know, having kids, getting married, figuring out all the things, trying to figure out what I'm doing with my life, and using yoga and other various fitness activities as an outlet. And that's kind of where my health and wellness journey had started. But it wasn't until the past year or so I became a yoga instructor where I really started educating people and learning about my own personal burnout. You know, coming out of COVID, all the things kind of compounding. You know, that's really what led to this, like, I need to release. And that's what, you know, the books are about, the TEDx talk is about, is overcoming all the stress, anxiety, the burnout, and not realizing, like, yo, what's going on?
Yes.
I'm doing all these things. I'm getting all these degrees, these certifications. I'm working, trying to climb the ladder. And I have no space for me. I have no space to rest. I'm constantly in caretaker mode.
Yes.
Whether it's kids, husband, parents.
Yes.
And even if have some opportunity to exercise, it's still not giving me the release that I need. I'm still mentally drained, burning the midnight oil, you know, reporting to work, trying to get deadlines in, and
just life and all over you.
Right, exactly. And I found that I'm not the only one going through this.
Absolutely not, because I follow you on Instagram pretty closely, and you're always dropping these little gems on there to kind of just like help you push through that last bit. Like sometimes, like I'll click it on, I'm like, okay, I need a little bit of motivation. I'm getting worn out. You know what I mean? Especially like towards the end of my week when things are like getting extra crazy. Like I need that extra little push, and you always are dropping these little gems and tips and tricks, which are extremely helpful. I know you offer a lot of like online coaching and things like that. But I just think like your entire journey has been pretty amazing. You know, like I know you're an AKA and all the things. Hello. And I actually got the pleasure of meeting her mother. Shout out to the mama. She's gorgeous. Yes. Hello. She looks incredible. And just listening even to like your mom's story and her journey and like relocating to Texas and being closer to like you and your kids and your spouse and just what you guys just went through a journey as a family and you overcoming like all of these stressful things and still being able to create phenomenal material. You guys have to check out her book, Somatic Exercise Made Simple. And then she also has Somatic Exercise Made Simple Mastery Program. So, I mean, these I'm sure are available on Amazon.
Right.
And I just think it's the way you poured into with everything that you were dealing with, you still decided to pour into other people. Do you know what I mean? Like not only you poured into yourself and trying to create this path for yourself to find a way to just breathe and get through all the stresses of your daily life and everything that you were juggling, but you were like, well, let me go ahead and help some other people too along the way.
Right.
Like the selflessness, like I greatly admire. So I just think that's incredible.
It was really when I learned about the somatic exercise, and I also use hypnotherapy as well. I became a certified hypnotherapist. And when I learned about those practices, before I became a practitioner myself, it was really how it helped me, where I was like, this isn't something I can keep to myself. Like this, expedited the healing process, helped me get out of that state of, just overwhelm, and insomnia
Mm-hmm.
was a
Mm-hmm.
huge thing, especially at that time. And I know so many people in my like immediate circle
Yeah.
that could use this.
Mm-hmm.
I can't not learn it
Yes,
and
and
help
then
other
gatekeep
people.
it.
Right,
Yeah, and then be a
exactly.
gatekeeper. Yeah.
Right. So that was my immediate thought, like I have to learn it and I have to share it with others. And that's exactly what I did.
So, what was it like becoming a yoga instructor? What does that entail? And then we'll get into the hypnotherapy because I'm so curious about that. But
Yeah.
I've done a few yoga classes and it's helped me with like breathing, and just getting more in like touch with my body and becoming more flexible.
Right.
What's that journey like to actually become the one at the head of the class?
Well, the initial training, there's several different variations, but the initial certification is a 200-hour training.
Mm-hmm.
And you go through the training as well as you have to do practice hours where you're actually teaching and instructing a class.
Mm-hmm.
And that it contributes to the total hours. So there's the 200 and then the 300, which can amount to a total of 500. So sometimes you'll see online instructors saying, I'm a 300 hour, I'm a 500 hour. It's really just the number of hours of training that they completed, as well as practice time, how much instruction they've given.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was going to a yoga studio up the road, just as a student, and they were a fairly new studio, and they were looking for instructors. And I knew a couple of people that were already instructors outside of the folks that worked there. And I just kind of inquired, like, what is this? What does it take? What does it take to be a yoga instructor? And like, really, it's just they teach you the foundations, like, the how yoga came about, the different pillars of yoga, ways to practice it, going into different techniques, obviously learning various postures, working on breath work, meditation. So there's a large scope, right? And various methodology for practicing yoga, like yin, vinyasa, hatha. So, but usually in your training, you're usually focusing on a specific one. You kind of learn everything, but based on what you want to teach, how you want to teach, maybe even where you want to teach, oftentimes they'll focus on specific. So my primary focus was on vinyasa, which is more of a flow, breath to movement. Some people view it more as like the workout style. I use that in air quotes.
Okay.
Because it's more flowy, more movement. You can get your heart rate up a little bit more, but not all vinyasa is like that. There's slow flow, but it does work on, the balance, the strengthening, and then just the kind of a mental agility, if you will, like using your mind to strengthen your body and vice versa. So
Gotcha. So vinyasa, that is your specialty.
Right.
I like the way that it sounds, vinyasa. I not even just being a layperson, not even realizing there's all these different forms and versions, because we hear hot yoga and then yoga at your gym. You go to Lifetime Fitness and you do a yoga class there,
right.
And I know downward dog and I know all my basic positions and my breathing, but you're very well versed in what you do. It's quite impressive. Tell me a little bit about like hypnotherapy, like what it is, what it's for, who it helps.
Yeah. I like to think of hypnotherapy as just a deeper form of meditation.
Okay.
But usually it's guided, right? There is practice where you can hypnotize yourself. It does take a lot of experience. So most people go to somebody else like me to hypnotize them, to get them to that state. And gosh, there's lots of reasons people do it. It can be overcoming addictions, like I want to stop smoking, or drinking less, or weight loss, lots of different things, or just some of the kind of more common things recently is just overcoming fears, just mental blocks, that things that are holding you back. Those are often common, where you can say, like, I know this is what I want, but this thing is preventing me. This fear, this something within me is saying like, oh, you shouldn't do that. Maybe it was something a parent or somebody you trust kind of instilled in you is, oh, that's not a good idea.
Yes.
So
yes.
even though you're seeing like, well, other people are doing it, I think I could do it, but maybe I shouldn't. That kind of self-doubt gets in the way. You can use the hypnotherapy to overcome a lot of those things. And that's exactly what I did. There's a couple apps online. The one I prefer is called Mind Valley, but there's a few practitioners on there that I kind of followed. They had some courses, if you will, within the app. And I was able to overcome a lot of the things that I was dealing with. My dad had passed, and I was just constantly avoiding my reality, so to speak. Like my mom moved out here, so that was added stressor. I had changed jobs. I had my kids. I had a newborn also during that time.
Yes.
And so, I was just very stressed and not knowing how to decompress, how to get out of it. The constant fear, plus I have businesses, like the fear that if I stop, everything's going to fall apart. And being able to know that, rest assured, like you're putting in the work. You can still rest. You can still take care of yourself and accomplish these things.
Yeah.
Because you're doing all the things you need to in order for it to happen. And so it wasn't until I did that, kind of mindfulness practice with the hypnotherapy where I realized like I can let go. I can trust that I'm on the path that I need to be on. I'm putting in the work. I know that this thing is for me. My business isn't going to fail. Like I know that, I don't have doubts about that. I'm not in a position where, financially struggling or whatever. It's just, I'm busy. And it's really this busyness of my own making. That's
yeah. When you say they're part of our own making. Yes. The more and more we put on ourselves.
Right.
It's almost like sometimes I feel a lot of times like I'm playing physical and mental Jenga. Like, okay, I got to put this piece on top. This has to be priority right now. And then we're going to move this piece over here. And then you're just trying to keep the Jenga pieces from falling over,
Right.
Sometimes that's a way I have to like describe my life. It's like, I don't hate it. I absolutely love it. But, there are just times where the stress is getting to you and your Jenga pieces, they're wobbling. You pull that piece out and it starts to get shaky. It doesn't fall, but it gets real, real shaky.
Right.
I 100% understand where you're coming from because oftentimes I think we as women, we put ourselves last and we put everybody else first. The kids, the spouse, the work, everything. And almost feeling like ashamed or selfish to put yourself first in certain things. But it's like, mama's got to be taken care of because if you're not, the Django, the pieces will fall. They will fall and crumble, and I feel like a lot of times in a position like you have this household and this spouse and these kids and these careers and, these books and things like that. And it's so, you have people like me who admire you and we see it from a distance and we're like, she's amazing. That girl has everything going on. But also inside you're like still keeping it together just like us. We like put you guys on a pedestal, but we have to recognize that you're human too.
Right. Exactly.
Even though you have this superhero cape on, it's like we still have to recognize that you are human and you're entitled to like need support and help just like, anybody else.
Right. It was when I had my youngest, I was struggling with high blood pressure. And I remember I ended up having to have a C-section with him.
Oh, wow.
And even in the hospital, my pressure was up and down. And, one of the nurses like, you have to take time to take care of yourself.
Yes.
Like, otherwise you're never going to be able to resolve this. And I just had this feeling of like, I get it, but I don't know how. I don't know how to
that part.
Not just take care of myself, but how to get like some of this stuff off of me so that I can have that opportunity. My husband, and again, at that time, had just started a new job, so he didn't really have time to take off, to help me with the newborn. My mom came in town a little bit, but couldn't stay for too long. She wasn't officially retired yet then. And I was at that time still working at the university. And so my time actually at home on leave was very limited. That was an added stress, like the whole FMLA thing, like this is ridiculous. Like not giving people the amount of time or the number of hours or the compensation. They're like, yeah, you can take your time off, but you're going to end up working for free, or
yeah, absolutely.
So that was added stress, like feeling like, all right, I have to go back sooner, and still not being able to take care of myself because I'm having to go back to work too soon.
And a lot of people just don't understand the trauma of a C-section.
Yes.
This is not she'll be all right in a week. No, that is major surgery. Not to mention after that, now you have this little one as well.
Right.
Like that's absolutely, that's so much. Yeah, exactly. It's so much to deal with, even mentally, especially if I've had clients and they were like, it was so not in my birth plan. I really just wanted to push and do this thing. And I had this set in my mind. And then when something happens and it doesn't go that way, it can be,
traumatizing.
It can be very traumatizing. And there's a little period of mourning after that you're doing all this healing and you feel totally different,
right?
In more ways than one, because now, you're a mother or you added an additional person to your family. And not to mention, like you said, the trauma of having had a C-section. It's a lot. It's a lot.
I remember being in the birthing room, like I said, they were struggling to get my pressure down. And, they're telling me like, because we can't get your pressure down, it's making the baby's heart rate go up. So you're on that added stress, right?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I could lose my baby, or I could even die during this process. And like, we're going to have to do a C-section. I know you didn't want to do the epidural, but we have to do the epidural, hoping that brings it down. That didn't work. And they're like, so that added like, oh my God, it's either this or nothing.
Right. Yeah.
So that just added additional pressure, and then the whole after, still having the blood pressure issues, and struggling with breastfeeding and everything else that goes with it, and then just body feeling like a train wreck, struggling to get it back. Like really, yoga was the only thing I physically could do without feeling like I was further damaging my body or not feeling like a train wreck after I lifted some light weights or did a few push-ups.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, can't go hit F45 after a C-section. It's there's no way. It's like you have to take your time and gradually work your way back into it to kind of get back to yourself.
Right.
I want to talk a little bit about your first book, and like with you having just so much going on. Number one, how the heck did you find the time? And number two, like what was your thought process coming together to like get the information in a way that we could all receive it so easily?
Yeah. So one reason I found the time, again, through the practice of the somatics and the hypnotherapy, I realized I needed to let some stuff go. I had to reorganize my life to free up some time for myself and to do some more things that I enjoy, which is also when I was getting the hypnotherapy certification. So I have another business, a travel business. At that time, I was also restructuring that business so that I could get some of my clients off my plate. And I brought on other agents under me that could do the work, people that were experienced, that I didn't necessarily have to spend hours and hours training. I could start offloading and handing things to them to do.
You could delegate so you could breathe. Right. Yeah,
exactly. And that was one big thing that was really life-changing for me.
Absolutely.
As a business owner, like, that solo entrepreneur status, like, it's stressful.
Extremely.
And it's hard to find that balance. Like, all right, I still want to make money, but if I hire people, then I have to pay people, which means I'm not going to make that much. And so it's kind of like that constant struggle. But again, going into it with the mentality, I'm doing the work, I'm hiring people that are experienced. If they're making money, I'm making money.
Yes.
And I just have to trust that it's going to get done.
Yes.
Bringing on enough people is kind of a numbers game also. Bringing on enough people that I don't have to feel like I have to be hands-on with everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it was a work in progress for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Being able to let go and, slowly delegating, like, well, this person has been a client of mine for like 10 years and oh, they
Yeah.
really trust me to do it. And, just kind of that gradual, like, all right, eventually, Danielle, you have to
Being
let
able
it
to
go.
relinquish a certain amount of control is very hard.
Right.
It is, especially when something is like you've grown it, you've built it. It's literally like your other baby. It's a part
Right.
of you. Being able to relinquish some of that control and trust somebody to pour into it the way you have, or and respect it the way that you have. It's a
Right.
very difficult thing. So
Right.
kudos to you for being able to do that, because it's not easy. It's not
It's not
easy.
easy. It's not. And between that, as well as hiring a virtual assistant,
Mm-hmm.
that was a lifesaver for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
A couple people kind of in that period was like, well, do you have a VA? I was like, a what? Like, this is a thing. So I started researching it and, interviewing a few people, really figuring out like who, not just who could do it, but what tasks I can actually use the VA for,
Mm-hmm.
what I can delegate. It's also training them as well, hiring somebody that's experienced VA that understands not necessarily my specific business, but just how to be a VA. They have their own task management processes in place,
Mm-hmm.
um, document management systems like that. Knowing that I hired somebody that has those things in place helped make me feel reassured, right?
Right.
That I wasn't working from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, again, going into it with the thought that, okay, even though I'm paying this person, they're making me more productive. I'm able to do more revenue generating work that's going to bring me money, because the things that I'm handing them isn't necessarily revenue generating. It's just things that need to get done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So being able to hand that task to the VA so that I could do the work, which was writing the book.
Mm-hmm.
And then she helped me. It was a learning process for both of us, but it helped set up so that the book could get out there, the marketing aspect of it. So we worked very closely on that together.
So what was the experience like creating this and like
Yeah.
getting the information together, and even just like the images, and you're very you don't just say it, you show it.
Right.
I'm very much a visual learner, so you can't tell me a certain like pose or a certain thing to do. Like I need to see it. Like I
Yeah.
can watch you do something and then I can mimic it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So it seems like it was very important to you to have the images as well as
Yeah.
the instruction.
Yeah. That I would say came from my yoga practice and becoming a yoga instructor, and the lessons they taught us about, just how people learn and how they grasp the concepts and how to walk them through the postures. All of that went into the book.
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of research and comparing other existing books on the market
Mm-hmm.
and what they were doing or not doing.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just made sure that my book was all the things that people needed it to be. Having real images of an actual yoga instructor.
Yes.
So that the postures are correct, correctly
Mm-hmm.
aligned,
Mm-hmm.
Walking through the movement, even that it's in text, like being very specific about how to align your body step by step, where that wasn't necessarily included in a lot of other books. Because honestly, a lot of the other ones that are out there are not written by a yoga instructor. They're just people that are passionate about it,
Mm-hmm.
the work, which is fine. But that piece is missing.
Mm-hmm.
As an instructor, I don't want people to injure themselves while doing it. This is supposed to be a healing practice, but if you're doing it wrong,
Mm-hmm.
you can make yourself worse. I make sure that there's videos available with it. So, I have a photographer and a videographer that I use for both the books, and we photoed a majority of the moves, as well as having videos to go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
I did the voiceovers for all the videos to walk through how to do the postures to make sure that the practice is complete, that you can actually have something you can do at home.
Yes.
And then if you need more, you can get more. You can find, either me or going into a studio or other practices to get that additional support. But this is at least, a good foundation to get you started.
Yeah, it's an amazing foundation because like someone like me, for example, who can have like sciatic nerve pain and stuff like that, I cannot be left to my own devices. Okay, I need to see like the proper instruction and like really be able to follow along so that I don't aggravate something or injure myself or do more damage in the long run, know. So I do think that's very important. And one thing that I have to say that I love about like yoga, like you spoke about, is the focus on breathing. Because I think sometimes we don't understand what an important part that plays when you take a breath, when you release it, how deep it is, and things like that. Even now, when I go to my my regular women's gym classes that I go to, like the instructor is very specific. She'll say, okay, like on this move, that's when you need to breathe out. When you're going in this way, that's when you need to inhale.
Right.
Like breathing it plays such a huge part. And you think it's nothing. Like people always say, oh, it's easy as breathing, but
that's actually not easy for everybody.
Exactly. Can you talk a little bit about that and explain that?
Yeah. Well, oftentimes, especially when people get nervous or worked up, you might find yourself holding your breath.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you're actually holding in all that tension and anxiety, and the act of exhaling helps to release it. And so breathing in and out has multiple benefits, improving focus. When you're doing it with movement, it improves mobility and joint and muscle recovery. We talk about stimulation of the vagus nerve, which is a nerve directly impacted with like fight or flight.
Yeah.
So it helps just calm the nervous system, the body down so you can relax.
Mm-hmm.
So breathing helps that relaxation response, as well as just like improving your gut health and circulation and all of that. Yeah, lowering your blood pressure. So like if you have high blood pressure, that meditation as well as breath work helps to bring it down.
Wow. I mean, because I know breath work can also help with like pain management and things like that,
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about like the meditation, because when we think meditation, we just think, you know what I mean? Like what kind of like benefits does it have for us, like mentally and physically? And like, I mean, is it a different time frame for everybody? Should we be attempting to meditate for 15, 20 minutes a day? Like what's a meditation routine like, if there is such a thing?
Yeah. It can vary for everybody. I prefer, and there's been some studies out there as well, that the best time is like first thing in the morning, that waking hour, and it has to do with your brain waves, that alpha and theta brain waves. Alpha means you're in a full waking state.
Mm-hmm.
But when you first wake up, you're kind of, sometimes you might be floating in between, like, oh, I could fall back to sleep, or I'm waking up. And this also is why I do the hypnotherapy, because that's also when you can get into like the hypnosis state where you're really rewiring your subconscious. So if there's things that you want to specifically focus on for the day, just having a great day, being positive, or if there's something potentially stressful that you're about to face, visualizing how you want it to go. Visualizing your future, the concept of manifestation, that's kind of also that same brainwave, brain frequency that you'd be on. And so, like I said, the best, I use again an air quote, if you're able to, that best time is the morning because of where your brain is, mentally in that state.
You're on like a specific wavelength at that time.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so it really just is the best opportunity to kind of rewire and program your mind for positivity for the rest of the day. if you can't, or if you feel like you need it multiple times during the day, do it whenever you can. You know, if you need it throughout the day, taking a mental break, stressful day, maybe between meetings, you can push pause, do some breath work, you know, doing some visualization about how you want the rest of the day to go, or this meeting, how you want it to go. And that can help reset your day. You know, it helps also with energy levels. Maybe you're feeling down or drained. It can boost the energy to help you get through the rest of the day. Or another great time is in the evening, you know, doing the somatic stretches, really releasing some of the tension you might have occurred throughout the day, doing some of the mobility, and just giving your body an opportunity to relax, rest, and release. And, you know, doing the meditation at night just helps prepare the brain for sleep, helps prepare the body for sleep. And then, you know, if you're already ready to go to sleep, it's going to help knock you out.
I need that, because I tell you, you know, certain ages, you know, when you start to, for us women, you know, like menopause, we always say, oh, it takes your sleep, you know, so breathing exercises and being able to like truly like kind of relax and get out of your own head before going to bed or meditate seems like that could be at least a tool in your toolkit to kind of help you get a better sleep. That's amazing. I want to talk a little bit about like with all the stretching and the movement, because is it true that there are like certain areas, you know, in our body where we tend to hold more stress than others?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Usually starts in the head and neck, right? You know, we can clench our jaw. We carry tension in our shoulders and neck, the back of our neck, and then it can just kind of migrate down. If you're sitting a lot, desk workers often will get the hip and back pain. And just depending on how you're sitting, your configuration at your desk, you know, that kind of ergonomic setting, if it's not truly ergonomic, you start to feel where that pain is, as well as, you know, that tension, it just will start to build up. You know, before I used to have really bad shoulder pain because my desk was too high for where my chair was, and my chair didn't raise up enough. So I was just in this really bad configuration, and then staying there for hours at a time, working, often not taking a lunch break. So, you know, 9 to 5 in this awkward position where my shoulder's dropping in, and I'm trying to type and move the mouse, and just doing a number on my shoulder. So taking the opportunity to do the exercises to rotate the shoulder. Where am I really feeling the pain, right? You know, sometimes it's not just the shoulder, especially with work tension. I'm feeling it in the neck. So being able to release all of that from the neck through the shoulder, and doing the different activities, pressing my hand down as I tilt my head away, feeling it all through the neck, down through the shoulder and bicep, and really out through my fingertips as I press down. And so there's different activities you can do. It just only takes a few minutes, and remembering to balance, even though I feel it on this side because of how I'm configured, remembering to always give the other side love too. I want to balance out the body.
One thing I have to say that I love about yoga, though, is that the few yoga classes that I have been in, I have seen everyone from teens, like someone was 19, and then we also had a lady in there that was 72. Like there was such a range of ages, because not that it's simple, but like the simplicity of all you need, like bring your mat.
Right.
You know, bring your mat and a bottle of water, and you can sit in there and you can do something, you know, good for your body. So I just think it's low impact in the extent of you're not flipping tires and doing HIIT training behind a building, you know, but you're still getting it helps, I feel like, with, you know, your posture and your breathing and all those things. And I just love the fact that anyone can get out of their house and do it. You know, it's amazing for all ages.
Yeah.
What were some of the, like, did you notice in your classes that you had like a wide range of age groups in your classes as well? Was it very eclectic in there?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I just like you, that's kind of one of the things that I loved about yoga. It's accessible, you know, especially with the somatic exercise, you know, and you don't necessarily have to do it in a studio, which is one reason that I wrote the book, because people still have the misconception that, yoga is for flexible people, like,
Like you see someone putting their foot behind their head or
Right.
something. I'm like, I can't even, I haven't done a split in 30 years.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. I see, a lot of yoga instructors with their profile photos and these really challenging poses, which is great. It's great that they're able to attain it, but it often creates the perception that unless you can do this, or unless you think you can get to this, this isn't for
it will
you.
serve no purpose for you.
Right.
Yeah. And that's just not true.
Right.
Because you will definitely see an improvement, and you will gradually get better and more flexible. I've spoken to people who've done it, in regards to like their physical therapy to help kind of like move that along, especially with the breathing exercises, like breathing through the pain when they're with their physical therapist. Going to yoga on the off times is very, very helpful for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But it's not until people, are introduced to it, have opportunities to speak with instructors to understand what the benefits are, and that there are more accessible options for them. And so that was, like I said, one of the main reasons I wrote this, for people that aren't quite ready to get in the studio. They feel maybe a little self-conscious. I know I've had a number of students that maybe struggled with weight, and they're like, oh, I don't really feel comfortable wearing, leggings and a crop top in the studio, which obviously isn't required, but they might feel uncomfortable if they feel like they're surrounded with people like that. But I think a lot of the studios that I've been at, are inclusive and try to make sure that people don't feel like they're being ran away because of
right. No, that makes total sense because we all have, certain insecurities and things like that. But I'm like, look, we're all in this. I guess I'm getting towards that age where I'm just like over it. I'm like, it is what it is. I've had 3 kids. I've got some stretch marks. We've got some dimples going on back here. But I'm just doing what's best for me and what makes me feel good and better. And at the end of the day, like, I want to lead as healthy a lifestyle as I possibly can. And I want to be flexible and have movement even in, my later years, because I don't want to, if I can avoid it, I don't want to have a walker and things like that. I want to be able to still be like self-sufficient and stand on my own. That's really important to me. So I feel like these types of things are just so helpful along just my own, health journey. So when, you reached out to me for your amazing TED Talk that you did, I had the pleasure of doing her makeup. Hello. Yes. It was amazing. So I was just like, wow. And just delving more into like what you do and what you talk about and what your books were all based on. I was like, okay, she's pretty freaking incredible. You're someone that like the way you go about it and just the wording that you use and how you're so descriptive. It made it so accessible and tangible to me because I could actually follow along and it made sense. Yeah. I do want to read the front part of this book really quick, you guys. Okay. It says a 28-day guide for body awareness, stress reduction, and pain relief using meditation and movement to enhance your mental and physical health. Literally, that's everything in a nutshell of what this is.
Right.
That is it. Like, I just think the way you preface this, the way you set everything up, the visuals, the wording, I mean, is just phenomenal to me. I'm literally just like, kudos to you. This is amazing. And I mean, literally both of them, though. I love just the imagery. You look incredible on the cover. Like, look how gorgeous. This outfit is everything. I know that's beside the point, but still, like, it looks amazing. So with the first book, finishing that, what was that feeling like when you like the last page, you're like, that's it. I just wrote a book. That had to feel amazing.
The first one was the hardest because you have this idea like, oh, I want so much to go into it, but realizing, I also have a coach that I work with. They're like, don't put it all in one book. So it was really the planning process that took the longest. Like, all right, what is this book going to be? What needs to be in it? And how to kind of organize it in a way that people are going to receive it and make sense. And so just that process took me a little longer than
I would imagine. Yeah.
Plus, like I mentioned, it was very important for me to have the images of, me doing the poses,
Mm-hmm.
as a yoga instructor, to an African American female.
Yes.
There's no other books out there right now with us in it, with women
Facts.
of color in it.
Facts. I've looked. Facts.
I've looked.
Mm-hmm.
There was one other book with a woman of color on the cover, but once I actually looked at the book, she was not actually in the book. She was just probably a stock image that they found.
Yeah, exactly.
Again,
exactly.
not to discredit the authors, but
I know what you mean.
Right.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And so that was definitely important for a woman of color to be seen in this style of book, so that we know, yoga is for everybody. Somatic exercises for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not stereotype and say that it's only for certain people.
Exactly.
And now we can see that, and I'm making it readily available. I'm working to teach it, to share it with others that need it, and that was what was important for me. There's so many of us that need it.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned in my TED Talk, there's a researcher and author, Dr. Judith Joseph. She has a book called High Functioning, and one of the stats that she said is many women, especially Black women, use busy work as a form of avoidance, which is a coping mechanism for a traumatic event. And there's so many of us.
that right there, I have to say, that was a whole bar.
Right. A whole bar. So many of us go.
That hits you like a ton of bricks when someone says that. Absolutely. Right. Absolutely.
Exactly. And so this book is basically a manifestation of that, like helping people to release, stop doing the avoidance, the busy work, finding the time for yourself so you can release the trauma, the stress, whatever's built up. And it could have been building up over a long time.
Yes.
I talk about in my TED Talk, my realization was coming out of COVID, like what I did to myself coming out of COVID. Now it's probably something that I had been doing, just didn't realize it. Maybe I've had various points of healing, but this was a breaking point for me. Like I was emotionally breaking down in my office, crying. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm getting like 3 hours of sleep,
and trying to function and live a normal life
right.
on that minimal amount of recovery time.
Right.
When you think about that, our sleep time is when our body is recovering.
Right.
And if we take that recovery period away and we just keep chipping away at ourselves, we're doing some damage. Whether we realize it or not, we're doing some major damage.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw on Instagram a couple weeks ago, I think it was Fox News, posted something that there is this genetic trait that they recently discovered that said that very few people, like maybe 1.5% of the global population, right, has this, where they can thrive off of just 3 hours of sleep. Now, a majority of the people in the comments, oh, that must be me because I only need 4 hours of sleep. I'm good after. I'm like, just because you can only sleep 4 hours a night doesn't mean that you should and that that's healthy for you. There's probably something else going on that's keeping you from sleeping more than 4 hours a night. You're functioning right now on it, but that's not going to last very long. Exactly. So it was pretty interesting.
And you're not functioning at your best potential on 4 hours of sleep.
Exactly.
You're not.
You're not at all. Your body wears down quicker. You're subject to injuries.
Yes, because you've had less recovery time.
Right.
Absolutely.
Mental and physical, and especially for women, we can expedite the process of dementia and Alzheimer's, or even there's been studies that show that have early onset Alzheimer's. There's still, I think the verdict is out on whether it's truly genetic or hereditary, or if people can just get it. But there's more showing that the lifestyles that people are living, lack of sleep is literally creating holes in the brain that is causing Alzheimer's for people.
Absolutely, because we don't realize the toll all these things are going to take on us in the long run. You just get up thinking about today, but you don't realize in a few months from now, a few years from now, this trying to survive on 3 hours of sleep, the damage that it can cause, because I know for a fact it makes you feel older than you are. It will age you.
Right.
Oh, to be trying to accomplish everything you need to accomplish in a day over those few little hours of sleep.
Right.
And talking about like your somatic exercise, and I feel like sometimes I think people don't realize, for me, I am an early riser, right? I do go to bed early so that I go to bed early and I wake up early, because I feel like when I start my day earlier at like 5 a.m., those few little extra hours when people will sleep till 8 or 9, I've given myself a whole extra day of the week, I feel like, because I get up so early, and being able to get up and have like 30 minutes to myself to do something like this, to do some somatic exercise, to do some yoga poses, to do some deep breathing, even before I go to like my gym class. It does so much for my mental health, and it helps with some of that like cloudiness, that brain fog that you feel. Definitely. It helps so much. That's why I kind of just want to like scream this from the rafters, because I don't think people will understand how much better they will feel giving themselves that 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Whether, like I said, whether it's in the morning or in the evening before bed, like right before you take your shower, you just decompress and, do some meditation. Just, I don't care if it's on your bathroom rug, like no matter where it is, just take the time to do it. Before. Exactly. It's like, it doesn't, because sometimes as a mom, that's the only place you can hide is in the bathroom with the door closed. Hello. I think we've all been there.
Before they get up, let me just take these few moments.
Yes. Or you're in the walk-in closet in the corner trying to have a minute of peace for yourself, Yeah, it absolutely matters. And like, do something good. Try to do something good for your body every day. Right. When you're talking about with it, and like your gut health, what do you mean in that sense of the somatic breathing and your gut health?
Yeah. So when you're holding all that stress and anxiety, sometimes your body isn't processing the nutrients in a way that is actually going to be beneficial for you. Wow. And so it just improves the digestive process. There's some of the movements you can actually do, like massages for your belly to help move things around if you're feeling constipated. That can help move you. Obviously, drinking water and things are always beneficial. But just that movement, the breathing in and out helps to release the toxins that are stored in the body. Because if you kind of go back to biology, right, your bloodstream, your cells help transport all your nutrients and the good and the bad, right? And so the cells bring the good in, but you also need the cells to help release the bad stuff. And so through that process of the movement as well as the breath work, you're helping to release the toxins, the negative energy, the things that are being stored and held that we don't want to. So helping to just kind of improve that process, the metabolism, to make things work and function the way that they need to.
You want to have good flow. Yes. We want to be on a good wavelength and have a good flow. Like even your voice is very soothing to me. When I listen to you talk on Instagram, I'm just like, I would almost be a little bit afraid of you, because I feel like you could hypnotize me, because you have like this, you seem to be on, yes, you're just seem to be on like a very relaxed, even keel, like wavelength. You can tell that you're a very centered type of person. And that's the thing that gets me. I'm like, I think you could hypnotize me. Like, how hard, like, is that to do? I'm assuming it like depends on that person's personality and if they can give up control, and like how difficult is something like that, though? I'm so curious, because I think people think it's like a magic sideshow trick, and that's not what it is.
I mean, it has that that history, right? People think of the stage show presenters, and actually, Paul McKenna, he's one of the world's best hypnotherapists. He was actually my trainer. And so
Wow.
I was like, if I'm going to learn it, I got to learn it
From the best.
right?
I know that's right. That's amazing.
And so, you know, I won't say that it's easy, but there are a lot of techniques that we use.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the main things is the person that is getting hypnotized ultimately wants it. Then whatever the changes that they're wanting to happen,
they're open to it.
They're open to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's if they're like, oh no, I don't believe that this works. You can try it. Then they're probably not listening to really hear what the subconscious messaging is because they're not open to it. And so that's one of the big things, like before I work with anybody, really understanding what is it that they want and that they're willing to try some new stuff to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody comes like, oh, you know, this is my husband, I want him to stop smoking. And the husband's like, I don't want to quit. Then he's not going
He's made his mind up. He's not open to the possibility of not doing, because some people, they feel like that is their stress relief to do that, as opposed to, you know, maybe a healthier activity.
Right.
You know, they turn to that kind of, not that it, well, I guess it kind of is like a quick fix for them because they feel relaxed with that. Like first puff is what I've been told from people. I've had clients who previously smoked and they're like, there's something about that puff of it that makes them feel like, oh, then they can relax. And I'm like, well, why not just have some breathing exercises or something else? You know, I've heard people say things like, oh, well, if I don't do this, then I'll overeat. And I'm just like, we got to get to a healthy place in general, that we don't feel like we have to have all these unhealthy vices when there are amazing things out there that can help us through these like stressful times, you know?
But that's why the hypnotherapy is so great, because if they are open to it, like you said in that example, like I want to quit, but if I stop doing this, I'm going to do this instead. That's where the subconscious reprogramming comes in. Like, what else can you do? Like, you're relying on this as another emotional support. That might be something we want to work on separately.
Gotcha. Those other crutches.
Right.
Okay.
But where are the healthy options that you can use to keep your mind off of the smoking, as well as remind yourself how unhealthy this is? And so that's, you know, again, kind of going into the process. When it comes to things like addictions, it can be more of a multi-step process, but really helping them recognize for themselves, you know, through some questioning and answering, like, what is your true motivation? You know, is it health? You know, are you at risk of cancer? Did they find something? Is it wanting to extend your life expectancy because you have kids and grandkids, and really hitting those kind of emotional points to help them realize, like, I have to quit. Like, I have to make a change.
Emotional triggers,
right?
Yes.
And that's really how I kind of came along with the hypnotherapy, because I was at that emotional point where, like, I have to make a change. I'm overworked, stressed, not getting sleep. I physically feel it. I can't connect the dots most days because I'm so tired. Something has to change. And that's, you know, literally when it when it started change, when I realized, like, I need to find something. And that's when I found these practices. You know, unfortunately not everybody, you know, has that that opportunity, but, you know, that's why I'm sharing the message, sharing
your aha moment is helping us, and greatly appreciated. With the first book leading into the second book, because of course we didn't want to spill all the tea in book one. We spilled more tea in book two. When you're talking about this 28-day guide, like what does that entail? Like, so in those 28 days, is that giving us the time to create those new healthy habits so they stick?
Yeah. So the 28 days is really for you to create that awareness within your body to understand what you need.
Okay.
So one of my big things is, you'll find in the book, it's not going to say, do this on this day, do this on this day. Somatics is about what you and your body needs specifically. So it's a process of understanding how to get to that point, as well as, like you mentioned, kind of creating that routine so that you can continue. Within those 28 days, you'll definitely feel a change. because you've started implementing and doing the practices on a daily basis. And it only takes 10 minutes, if that, doing those movements, breath work, meditation, the three combined is what makes somatics. It's not just the movement, it's breath work and the meditation to really be able to find that release and rest and restore that process. And so within the 28 days, you'll be able to have a solid plan for yourself, as well as physically see a difference in your body and how you're able to move daily if movement was the goal, or like, oh man, I'm actually sleeping now. I've added at least 2 more hours of sleep a night. And then, like I said, being able to log it. There's a log at the back of the book, as well as a link to print more of them. So you can keep track of your progress. And that's important too. Because if you're not documenting like where I started, you're often literally measuring day to day, like, oh, I really don't feel much difference from yesterday. But if you go back like, oh man, I couldn't even move my shoulder 2 weeks ago, but now I have some more mobility. So being able to measure that change.
I think measuring change is extremely important, because if we go on a diet, we expect to lose 22 pounds by next week.
Right.
So I feel like you need to really like see that growth and that progression and measure your progress and go, wait a minute, I used to sleep 3 hours a night. Now I'm getting 5.5. Right. That's a huge change. That's a big difference. That actually affects your quality of life.
Right. That's a life-changing difference.
Yeah. So I love the fact that you're like, look, I need you to track your progress so you can actually see how you're progressing and how things are changing for you. And it makes you stop and actually think about how you're feeling.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I think that's something we gloss over. Like, we'll just hop up and be like, if it feels all right, or But it's like, actually take the time to think about it and think about how you're, like you said, how you're digesting food, how things are moving throughout your system, gauging your mobility. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, wow, I hopped up on that chair and got what I needed off the top of the refrigerator like that. And before, it's like, okay, wait, hold on.
Right.
You know, I mean, those little things that we think are small are actually bigger strides than we realize, especially as we're aging.
Yes.
So I think that's phenomenal that you are really like forcing us to take a look at it and like take a look at ourselves and go, what can I do better? And making something that is just accessible to everyone. I think that is one of the things that really like touched me the most. Is, for one, looking at the cover of a book and seeing someone that looks like me. First of all, I love that. I love that. We all want to see ourselves reflected in something. We want to see that representation. So seeing something like this just makes my heart so happy anyway. But the fact that this is accessible for anyone who just wants to just feel more present in their body and to just feel better, period. And it doesn't matter your race, your age, ethnicity, none of that. It just doesn't matter. This can work for anyone. Anyone who picks it up can gain something from this. And so I just want to say kudos to you for writing the 2 books, taking the time and going through just like the levels of training that you've gone through, just becoming the yogi and training with the hypnotherapy. Like, you are really about creating like a wellness, mind, body, spirit, the total wellness of a total package. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not just mental. It's not just physical. I love that you try to bring all those things together to create a healthy lifestyle, period. So I absolutely love that.
It, like you said, in an accessible way, not just making the postures physically accessible, but showing that anybody can do it. You know, I typically focus on, busy professionals and, they're not necessarily yogis. They're not always like the super spiritual people. And sometimes there's that divide or that stereotype. They feel like, oh, well, that's not me. But that doesn't have to be you to feel that sense of peace, that mindfulness, the awareness, that doesn't have to be you on that level, because that's not me either.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I
Yes.
practice yoga, but I'm not like super into crystals and chakras and all. That's all a part of it, right? But you don't have to necessarily go down that rabbit hole in order to obtain the physical well-being that you're looking for. So.
Okay. I know this is running long. I'm going to stop in just a second, but I just have to know, just what was the whole TED Talk experience like for you, just finally being up on that stage and just doing it? What was that like? What did it feel like?
It felt like a relief. Well, one, because like when I got the notice that, all right, we want you to speak, it was about 30 days. So it's been this mad dash to prepare, like writing the talk. I had a coach that I worked with to do the actual kind of performance aspect, making sure that's engaging and that I have good stage presence, and finding the outfit, finding the makeup artist.
Yes.
Like I felt like I had such a limited time frame to get it all.
30 days
out.
Is very limited.
Right.
Absolutely.
I did want, I had my videographer there just so I make sure I had my own footage, because TED records it, but it's their footage.
Right.
It's going to live on their YouTube page and their website, which is fine. But I want to be able to have the rights to my own stuff to, chop it up in various ways, use it for other, presentations. So, like I said, just having the big picture, right?
Yeah.
What I want the whole experience to be. So once I finally got out there, it's like, finally.
I know, it probably felt surreal, like I'm here. And
Right.
Finally, after all that build up and all that work you did to get to that point, you know, because I know it's a process just to be able to go on there and do something like this. And they really check your credentials and go through all your work to make sure that you're worthy of this talk, which you absolutely were. But I just mean, like, standing up there and giving it must have felt pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was nice. Like it was a really nice studio that they had set up. So it felt good. Like, man, this is official, right?
Yes, it's very official. Because when you sent the pictures, I was like, wow, okay, she's in there. She's there. And the outfit was great. Like, I love that you had like the earth tones. Yes. Like, it just looked, the way you put everything together was really nice. You did a great job. I was very happy for you and proud of you. It was pretty amazing. And I know your mom was so proud. Your family was so proud. They were there to support you. So I think that's incredible.
Yeah, it was important that, especially with the outfit and everything, it just represented who I was. Like, I'm a professional, business-minded, but I'm also down to earth.
Yes.
That's why I kind of wore the sneakers too. I like to be relaxed. I also didn't want to be up there like feeling uneasy or, not centered, like something where I could really have a strong presence in front of the crowd, and feel comfortable out there to deliver my message.
Yes.
So.
And you held your own. You did a great job. You must, like, afterwards, did you just kind of go, oh, when it was over? Like, what was that experience? Like, just walking off and being like, oh, I did it. Like, did it even feel real at that point? Because sometimes after we do things like that and when we walk away, it's like, did that just happen?
A little bit. One interesting thing, though, I do a little bit of the somatic practice in the talk. And so that actually kind of helped release some of the, anxiousness that I might have been holding. And even one person, when I came off, I don't remember, she just shook my hand, or if I gave her a hug, but she's like, your hands are cold when like everybody else is hot and sweaty. And, it's really that somatics just helps bring the temperature down, the pressure down. It gives a calming sense. So that actually kind of helped in the practice. So
amazing. Do you see why Dr. Danielle Griffin is here? This is why. Oh my goodness. I can't thank you enough for coming over here and doing this episode with me. It means the world to me. Your books are incredible. Something everybody should check out. They're absolutely available on Amazon. So you guys pop it in your cart right now. Just trust me. You won't regret it. Can you tell everybody how they can find you on Instagram and all that good stuff?
Yeah. Pretty much all my social channels are at Dr. Danielle Griff, doctor with a DR. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. You can find me on there. You could search Somatic Exercise Made Simple. I have a free Facebook group right now for people looking for additional resources. So definitely come join the group. Sometimes I go live and do some meditation and movement in there. I also do one-on-one coaching. Like you mentioned, my books are on Amazon, also on my website. So
nice.
Just
and
Google
the website is
Dr. Danielle Griff also.
Okay, drdaniellegriff.com. Yep. Check it out, you guys. And then the one-on-one coaching. So is that something they can just reach out to you via Facebook or go on the website and sign up for that? Or
yeah, either or. Facebook, you can DM me.
Okay.
Or there's links on my website. There's just a little form to schedule the one-on-one.
Okay.
We do a quick discovery call, see if it's a good fit, what you're looking for, and then get you signed up.
Well, there it is. She can get you signed up. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to this podcast. You can check us out anywhere you get your podcast, be it Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts. You can also take a look at us on YouTube. So thank you guys so much. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below and we will definitely get to everyone. Thank y'all so much. Take care.